more people will. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first session of our guided conversation series in partnership with The Circle. Michelle, if you want to go ahead and pull up our slide deck. Awesome. Linda, is there anything that you want to say before we dive in?
I know, just that I'm super excited to see everybody, and thank you so much to Cultivate Advisors for partnering with us on this and bringing this kind of conversation to everyone. And enjoy your time.
Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. I'm excited to be here. If we didn't see you at Leadership Academy a couple weeks ago, we had the opportunity to do kind of a mini mock version, a kickoff of this, just to kind of roll it out and see what this conversation series could look like. We wanted to hear what topics you wanted to talk about. This is all about us just helping facilitate the conversation. You guys have a lot to say. You've got a lot of ideas. You've done a lot of successful things in your organizations. And so it's just about helping you connect with each other and learn from one another. So if you haven't been to one of our events before, we love to see your faces. So if you are able to, turn your video on, that would be fantastic. And then we'll dive into it right now. But today, the first topic that everybody wanted to talk about was creative retention benefits, or what was that again? Michelle, can you go back? Creative employee benefits and retention strategies. Yes. If you don't know who I am, my name is Stephanie Gary. I am the Director of Partnerships here at Cultivate. I also lead our partnership with NAWBO. I love working with NAWBO women. It is just a big piece of my heart. So excited to be here. And at Cultivate, we are aligned with NAWBO on the mission of propelling women-owned businesses forward. We are a small business advising firm. We are also kind of the education partner for NAWBO, and really excited to connect with the Circle members to bring this to you. And just a quick plug, if you are not familiar, we have built out some really cool resources on the Institute platform. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to nawbo.org, go to the Entrepreneurial Development Institute, log in. There are free courses there. We've got them on all different main topics of your business: leadership, communication, selling, productivity, financials, and those are available for your team too. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, would love to kind of walk you through there and give you some insight. Michelle, if you'll go to the next slide. I want to just, if you guys are not familiar with us, we focus on all the areas of working with business owners. Obviously, right now we're talking about kind of employees and retention strategies and recruiting, and that all falls into leadership, but we really touch on all these different pieces and how they work throughout the organization. So, but today we are going to be discussing the guided conversation rules. Okay, so we've never really done the guided conversation, so we want to just help you guys kind of come off mute, have an awesome conversation with each other. We really got to experience that at Leadership Academy, but the way this will work is we've got a couple slides, a couple conversation starters. We want to just kind of spur that amongst yourselves so that you guys can share, kind of where you're at in your own organizations, what's working, what's not working. Michelle is fantastic. She's going to help guide us as well. So be open, be active, use the chat, come off mute, ask questions. This is your time. We want to make sure that you get out of this what you need. And if you are feeling like you want to take this one step further, at the end, obviously, we always offer some free one-on-one support. Michelle's going to open up her calendar and make that available to you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Michelle Phillips, who is on here today. If you were at Leadership Academy, she was there with me. She is one of our incredible business advisors, previous amazing entrepreneur. Now she gets to work with other entrepreneurs to help them be successful. So Michelle, I will kick it over to you to get us started today.
Perfect, lady. Super excited to be here. Just going to reinforce everything Steph said. If you, the whole point of this is to really get you ladies talking and for us to just provide some additional information and support. And but if you don't do that, then I'm going to take you through several slides. So this is your opportunity. So today, why are we here? We really want to talk about some creative ways to engage and retain employees. And I really am going to be kind of pushing you guys back to really think about what's at the core of what your employees are looking for and how you can provide that. So hopefully we walk out of this with some best practices, a couple of things that work, maybe some things that you've tried that didn't work so well. Do they need to be tweaked or tossed out the window altogether? And we're going to hopefully walk away with 2 takeaways that you can implement right away in your business. And as Steph said, it's also your opportunity to sort of engage and connect with each other. So I thought we would start. Steph and I went through a couple of different preparation materials, and we're curious, sort of what's prompted this topic being so important to you. Is it because you're actually losing employees, or is it because you feel like your employees aren't engaged? And so we sent this out in the pre-materials. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but here's a quick and easy way for you to check your employee retention, right? So it's the second bullet says, let's say you had 40 employees on January 1st, 5 team members left in the first quarter, 35 stayed. If you divide 35 by 40, you get 0.875. Did anybody, I guess that's the first question to the group, did anybody use this calculator? Does anybody feel like they have a significant retention problem? Are people comfortable sharing their rates? Their percentages, I guess.
This is Debbie. Sorry, but I'm not feeling good this morning, so I have a little scratchy throat. I think this is going to be helpful for me, like right now, because I'm in the middle of my workers' comp renewal, and this is one of the questions that they ask. So I could tell already that I was doing it the hard way.
Good. So
I haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it yet?
No, I haven't had time. It's been computer issues today and yesterday, so every time I get in, they kick me out.
Has anybody done their rate? Or anybody done their percentages that they want to share?
This is Deb Ward. I'm happy to share.
Sure.
So in the last 12 years, since we relocated here to Nashville, we have had 100% employee retention rates. We have a significant amount of our team members that have been with us anywhere from 12 to 20 years.
Perfect. And are they all people that you want to keep with you? They're people that do a great job?
They are, yes.
Then I'm just going to turn this over and let you run this session.
Deb, what's your secret?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's any secret sauce, but what I got a 60th birthday card this year. The team got together and they wrote personal notes, and my assistant had it framed, and I have it on my wall. So let me just give you some examples of the direct feedback from team members.
I love that.
So our VP of sales, we've been together on the team for 15 years. Says Deb is one of a kind. She has made enormous positive influences in my life and my family. And of course, many others. Her passion for life and country life cannot be questioned. Truly one of a kind. Your kindness, generosity, and altruistic approach to leadership have aided in many dreams coming true. I'll always be grateful for our adventures together. And that's our VP of business development that we typically attend a lot of the various WBE&C shows together. And our VP of ops, who's been with us on part of the team for 20 years, his comment was, "It seems like such a wonderful day to tell you how fortunate we are to have you in our lives. You are an inspiring, intelligent, kind, and loving person that has brought so much joy to our lives. My family and I wish you a beautiful birthday."
That's fantastic.
I love that. So
my CTO, who is probably my most challenging team member, he has a lot of health issues and OCD, et cetera, but he's just very pivotal to our success. He says, "For over 10 years, you've been a boss, a confidant, and the mother I would have wished for. Happy birthday."
Wow.
Anyway, so those are just some examples of the feedback directly from the team members. And I think that probably speaks for itself on our longevity together.
So I'd love to ask the group. I wrote a couple words down while she was talking. There were some things that I think really stood out to me. Did anybody else capture anything, or did anything not necessarily surprising, just were there thoughts that you had while you were listening to that?
Crystal, did you want to say something?
Now, I'm kind of in the same boat as Deb. I think, but we have very few employees. We have like 3, and they've been with us for a while, and we really want to, keep them happy. And so, in terms, I mean, I think this is great, and I just never saw the formula for it, but yeah, in terms of, it's not a retention problem. I think it's just more as things are changing, or the climate is changing for employees. How do you continue to incentivize? I think it's going forward, and not continue just do the same old thing, thinking that that's going to just keep everyone happy. So I think that's where I'm at.
I love that, Crystal. And I just want to say, in case there are some of you who have lower retention rates and you don't feel comfortable, I had a customer facing business for 8 years. My employees were salon and spa and front desk, and 25 plus at all times. And my retention rate was not great. They were a very nomadic group. There was, a lot of competition for them. So I just say that to remind you, this is a safe space. And I love the success that the couple of you are talking about. But if any of you have some struggles that you want to share, please know, safe space. Let us know what you're thinking. And then I completely agree with you, Crystal. Let's dig into kind of how things have changed over really with COVID, right? So does anybody else want to share before we move into some more discussion?
Well, I'll just share that I think you have to know, if your rate isn't, and I think it's great that they have 100%, because that's what we all would aim for, sort of, because you do want a little bit of turnover, maybe, depending upon your industry. But I think that we have a lot of employees, and I think you have to know why people are exiting the firm. If they're leaving just because they don't like working for you, that's one thing. But when you have deaths, when you have retirements, when you have, I don't want to be in this profession anymore. I don't know how you make your retention rate higher when people make those kind of choices. Or I got married and I don't have to work. It's just an interesting thing. Or I have to move away because my spouse is moving away. We really, our firm hasn't lost people to the competition, but we've lost people for all those number of reasons. And I think they're out of our control. So, but the other thing is, our industries, I'm sure, are all shrinking. The availability of the labor force is not good. And at least in our profession, there's so many shortages that we can't even outsource stuff because the people don't exist. And I think, we're all going to have to combat that, or, take a little less, take projects that, we may not be able to perform. We have to, not take them if we can't get the resources to do them.
Yeah, so a couple things I would say about that. First, I would encourage you. So Carol, I had similar things, right? People move, people get married, people have babies. There were people got out of my industry. So I would start still with that true, what is the employee retention? Just straight up, what is that number? And then I would maybe group some of those people into those different categories. And then that would allow you to kind of get some subgroups and an idea of, are there any common things, or is there anything that you could have avoided in that? So that's what I would just kind of encourage you guys when you break this down. Still look at that one true number because it's relevant. But to your point too, Carol, so in some instances, there wasn't anything I could have done. So understanding that. Hi,
this is Chad. I also wanted to add that I have started, I'd say we're about a 25-30% turnover rate at that point, at least among our office staff. I don't count nurses. We have a lot of nurses in our company, but I think that was actually a good thing, because there were people that didn't quite fit and they didn't have a passion for what we do. And I felt like we were able to replace it with people that are a perfect fit for our company. These were people that were really looking for the job that we were hiring them for. And so I actually think our team is better for it. So I think there's some benefits to turnover as well.
I think you're absolutely right. That's a great point as well, right? So same thing, when you're doing this, I would factor that in, right? Who are the people that you maybe managed out or that you didn't want to stay? That's an important piece of it as well. Not all turnover is bad. So I completely agree. Two other quick thoughts that I had to kind of spur some conversation. One was, when Carol was talking about, so it's harder to find people, right, who can perform what the tasks that you need or the jobs that you need. So there is an opportunity to maybe look at your team and look for opportunity to grow and develop those people, right? I think we're going to be pushed a little bit more to do some of that. If it's a possibility. It's not always a possibility, but development opportunities is one of the big things that people today are looking for. So I would toss that out as a discussion point. And then I wanted to circle back, and I'm sorry, it was Deb or Debbie that was reading her card.
Deb.
Yeah. So I just wanted to circle back to that real quick. A couple of the things that really stood out to me when she was talking, right, were the things about how she'd had a positive impact in their lives, about how she was altruistic, just her general kindness, and how she seemed, right, based on the card, how she's putting her employees first. And that kind of took me to some of these questions. So when you guys think about, and Charu, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, true.
Charu, okay.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm in the car, so I just have myself on mute. Thank you.
No worries. I just didn't want to butcher your name there. So, if they are, number one, if your employees don't agree with the mission of your organization, if they aren't out there happy and passionate about what you do, then they potentially are not a good fit, right? So when you look at these questions, this was sort of a survey that we found. When you look at these questions and you think about your employees, is there any place here where you see a real gap? Or something that you'd like to talk about and have more discussion around?
Well, I'll just say the one you have there, item 6, are the amount of work and the pace of work you are required to perform reasonable? What if that's no? And we have, all age people on the call here, but it's getting a lot harder to ask people to go above and beyond, in all our industries, right? It doesn't feel like, all the people on this call are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week to run their businesses. But and I'm sure we're all very good leaders and set an example, but it's still the people, I would say, over 45 that will go the extra mile. We have horribly unreasonable clients. And a reason I guess a lot of us retain our clients is because we do go above and beyond what the norm would be. Because if everybody was a commodity, they could go anywhere. And I just don't, I don't see, you talked about training and opportunity. I don't see it a lot. A lot of the people, it's, even though they're in a profession, the commitment level is different. And I don't know if that's a societal thing or how we ever combat it. But I think that's tough when you're in an industry and the clients are unreasonable, I guess, compared to what the employees think is reasonable. So I don't know if you've heard any of that feedback from some of your employers.
I would rather the group sort of respond to that versus me initially.
Carol, this is Deb. I had a question, if I may. We haven't met before. What is your company and what industry are you in?
Our company name is Onyx Creative Architecture, Electrical, Mechanical, and Structural Engineering.
Okay.
And we do work nationally, and we work in the private sector, not the public sector. So for developers, retailers, restaurateurs, multifamily owners of, buildings and things of that nature. And it's just becoming ever increasingly complex to do our job in the world we're living in today. And so you have a lot of stress, the employees have a lot of stress, there's a lot of expectations, and the gap just seems to be getting like this. It's quite interesting, and we're managing it, but it's tough. And again, the lack of finding licensed professional engineers.
Mhm.
It's not happening, not out there.
I would like to add to that. One of the issues we're having, so we're in the healthcare industry, and I'm sure many of you know that there's been like a whole exodus of healthcare workers. And you're right. And it's been a catch-22 because we can raise salaries to encourage people to work more, right? Ask them, I need people to work the salary.
True, you keep kind of coming in and out. I know you're driving.
People tough, but then you have to hire.
I'm so sorry. You keep coming in and out, so we're missing most of what you're saying. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Michelle, this is Laura. I'll just step in while Charu's trying to reconnect.
Okay.
Everything that Carol said, everybody said is true. Pardon me for not showing my face. I just got back from the gym. I looked at myself and I said, I cannot show anybody this. So no makeup, wet hair, it's terrible. And our numbers look good because we have retained people and actually replaced out people. So we're able to stay ahead, but it's changed how they want to work. So a lot more people right now only want to work when they want to work. And when we do highly compensated, very expensive, experienced people with a lot of degrees, backgrounds, we're outsourced CFOs. And so I'd say before we could hire people and put them on salary, give them benefits, they were happy and they worked well because usually they were older. Now they want to work whenever they want to work, and they're reasonable about, I'll do one job now, but maybe somebody I'd say on average could handle 3 clients. Now they only want to handle 1, which has forced me to then hire 3 to get to that same level. So administratively, it's very hard. So on one hand, I go we've been able to keep the same level of performance, but it's different in how we've compensated them. And a lot of them do not want to be employees now. They want to be 1099. And in California, that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
So I just think it's just harder. And when I'm looking at the pipeline coming up, so the people who in my age group are really, they hit stride, it's late 40s, early 50s, that they're really good for my engagements. The people who are in their late 30s, 40s coming up are more like what Carol, you said. I've had people who say, well, we lose the client, who cares? And I'm like, oh, then it forces me to either step in or put another person on the engagement. So margins have gone way down because of that.
So they want to work when they would typically have taken 3 clients. Now they only want to take 1 and they expect the same pay?
No, because then we changed them to a not a flat fee. It becomes kind of like almost hourly, which kind of changes people's mentality. Whereas if they were on salary, they would just adjust. And sometimes, you would have one client would still pay you, but because I can't pay everybody full time for, a third of the work. Right. We have shifted it to what is essentially an hourly. I mean, we say, okay, this job should only take you 2 days a week, so we'll pay 40%. And I think that changes the mentality of how people approach it also. and they might not want to work all the time. They go, okay, we'll work on this project. If I have another client I need to staff that overlaps or runs, right after successive, they'll say, no, I'm going to Costa Rica. Like I just got this email this morning after they wrapped this job, and they were supposed to start another job in 3 weeks. They're going to Costa Rica. So more power to them, I guess.
Laura, that the whole thing you said California, and I know you're in LA, and we have employees in LA and in Ventura County. And, the number one place we're doing work is California.
Yeah.
And I had an employment lawyer. Well, I have 2 professionals licensed. They're very good. But one woman, one man, and they both only want to work. They'll work during the workday. And we aren't remote, so they come in the office. They live very close to the office, but they only want to work like 25 to 25 hours a week. And our employment lawyer in LA said, you do not want that, Carol. You do not want hourly licensed professionals. And Laura,
Yes.
you have licensed accountants. She goes, this California's laws and the way it works, that is a huge detriment
Yes.
to employers. Now, luckily, we haven't had any issues, but it creates this whole, all these issues that, like, the California laws, to me, seem like they're made to the lowest common denominator.
They are bad. They are bad.
Yeah, I mean,
So like, and every time we have, policy days, we go up, all the business groups, we all say the same thing. So what has to happen is clearly we have to have, and we have had an exodus of workers, right, on our population. So don't use California as the standard, other than this is what happens when people get out of control. And look, I'm not a flaming, whatever, and I believe in treating employees, but we've gone way the other way. So the fact is, if you live in this environment, I've had also, labor attorneys tell me the same thing. You have to be careful. One of the alternatives that I've looked at is, and we're experimenting right now, is we are hiring people, because it's all remote anyway, for the most part. And that we're hiring people outside of California and let's say more labor-friendly states. They're cheaper and they're doing the remote work for us. My only challenge is if sometimes you do need to come in and see the people, and the travel and the hotel for them, that could blow my margin out for the month, right?
Yeah.
So.
And I don't want to turn this into a California conversation, but you did make sure that even if you're hiring outside the state, you don't have to follow the California laws.
Technically you do. Okay. But
that's what I thought.
We are gray enough.
Okay.
And okay, so this is a horrible thing to say. You take risks, on some things, and with it by the book, could we be in trouble? Possibly. What's the risk level of it? It's either that or it's not an option, and I don't have the people to do the work. So I'm getting, we're business owners. We take risks. You get accustomed to that feeling.
Yeah.
I want to see if anybody else. Go ahead.
If I could add, this is what I do, right? I'm in the recruiting business. So I think, I like your first statement. Are people aligned with and buy into the mission, or believe, I think it's in the mission. And what we have seen, the biggest difference post-COVID is, number one, people do need more flexibility. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, right? And a lot of it has to do with childcare. Childcare has not gone back to pre-pandemic levels. So you're dealing with a lot of individuals that need that flexibility, and that's why they want to work the shorter hours. That's why they want to work the remote. But also probably the biggest thing that we have seen is people need to feel like they belong. It's not just enough that you're getting paid for what you do. They really need to buy into, and I don't remember who's the one that spoke at first talking about how she's had the employees for so long. Just hearing her, it sounds like she has that, and she has that passion. Her employees believe in it and have the same passion for what she's doing. And if I was going to say that, that's probably one of the most critical things that we see is people have to really believe that where they're working and what they're doing, either you're doing it for a good reason, you're, social cause, or they feel like they're at least contributing or getting something back, I think is much more critical.
Yeah, but Liliana, I think that Laura and Carol would say, I do care. I am trying to create that with my employees, and there's resistance. So what
Mhm.
because I completely agree with what you're saying. So how do you think they can help promote that, knowing some of the limitations that you talked about before?
I don't know enough about your businesses. I mean, it sounds like you both have licensed individuals, right? So just at the core of who these individuals are in their business, they tend to be very autonomous, right? And they're used to whether it's working on a certain project or something. So don't make it so much about the hours, make it about the results and what it is that they're doing. And instead of measuring the hours, measure the output, measure the results. I mean, I am one that before COVID, I would never have thought that I was like, we work these set hours, right? And I mean, even though my team works in the office, it's because that's what we do, but there's a lot more flexibility in terms of just understanding that people have lives and that they have schedules that they have to meet outside of work. The more that you see them as a whole person, not so much about what they're contributing to you and to your business, the more that they're realizing that there's, they're being seen as more. I guess that's the best advice.
I think, and that's really good advice, Liliana. Thank you for that. I'm in my case, our people are professional. They're making six-figure salaries, right? It's always been autonomous because they figure out the best way to do it. Sometimes we would say before, sometimes you work 5 hours, sometimes you work, it feels like 25. You work more, right? And it depends on. And if you have to pick up your kids, that's why we were always previously very attractive to working mothers because, frankly, we didn't care if you had to pick up your kids or somebody was sick, as long as the work got done. And even then, it's sometimes you tell the client, look, I've got a healthcare crisis, I need to push this off, and our clients are fine. So I think that in pursuit of the greater conversation, when you say you have a mission and you like what you do, and it's great when you're all aligned because we have various clients. And sometimes when we're helping clients we like and they're doing great work and they're helping people on nonprofit work, it's great. But sometimes the for-profit clients that pay the big margins who are difficult, if we didn't have those clients, I couldn't afford to take on the nonprofit work. So, I just wonder how businesses in very tough fields, just like in California, in the restaurant business, food, it's low priced. It's getting more expensive. It's people are ungrateful. They're rude. I don't know how it's supposed to work. Because I don't think it's realistic to say to be always able to create a appreciative environment with all good clients. I mean, well,
yeah, I agree. We still have a business to run, and if we all got to pick and choose and had the best clients in the world, it'd be a beautiful world. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just being realistic about, hey, I know that this client is difficult, and because this client is difficult, maybe a little perk or something because this client is difficult, just putting it out there so that they realize that that this is a difficult client.
Yeah, we do that. We give them spiffs. We give them, gift cards for stuff, extra days off when it's a challenging client. So, we're pretty good. I mean, gave them a long weekend in Santa Barbara, all expenses paid. I'm just saying, I don't know how sustainable that is on average, and we're able to do that because we've been in business for a long time, so we have,
And here's a reality. I mean, and there's a lot of stats that a lot of people don't talk about. I mean, our workforce participation rate is millions of people lower than it was before COVID. And what that means is that there's less people in the workforce. There's less people looking for work. A significant amount of people retired during COVID that were younger because they saw that as an opportunity to retire. Yeah, because they could. So we are dealing with a major workforce shortage. I mean, it's reality. I mean, working moms, women are one of the largest groups that left the workforce. And a lot of them is because of childcare. A lot of them is, during COVID because they had to, online schooling. And then they found different ways of doing things. And then the reality is a lot of people started their own business, right? Like I'm a COVID business. I started it before COVID, but people realized, hey, I want to do something where I can control my destiny. So the reality is we are dealing with the least amount of workforce participation since the 80s. And yet we have more businesses. So we're competing against all that. So I know I'm not painting a pretty picture, but that is a reality.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's why I was saying, before I would have somebody in their early 50s who could handle 3 clients. Now I have to have one-on-one because these people are what I call part-time retired. They don't have to. During COVID, they realized, hey, I could go on part-time. They can quote unquote retire earlier. And sometimes I feel like they're just doing me the favor of working for me for a little bit.
But Laura, you bring up something that I don't want to steer the conversation away from, but I want to put out as kind of a thought point. Are you guys really looking and re-engineering your systems where you can, re-engineering your processes, and looking for ways to be more streamlined? And I say that to you, but also to the entire group, because to the whole point of what we're talking about today, things are changing. And to the degree that you can tighten up everything that you do, and potentially charge more, right? And I get that that's a hard thing to say, or to maybe believe, but in reality, everything is more expensive now. It just is. And so, looking to see if there is a way to raise your prices and so that you can still achieve a certain amount of profit margin with maybe a little less in the labor force.
Yeah. We have actually done that. We've done a lot of automation, taken out, a lot of what I call non-critical, but those are the things that we used to do that are non-critical were the ones that tied our clients to us.
Right.
I'm kind of in the position where, and we just made an evaluation right now because, we're going to try it. So we're going to fire about 1/3 of our clients because they are difficult. And it'll be an experiment to see what happens. We're not firing them like, go away tomorrow, but we're not, we're pulling back, let's say. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that particular environment. But like I said, it's an experiment that I can afford to indulge in right now because of where I am with our business. If I were just starting out, I'm not so sure, or if I were in the middle of it, I'm not really sure it would be viable. Okay, I'm stopping talking because it sounds like this is very downer conversation, which I don't want to have.
Debbie, can I ask a quick question of Laura?
Mhm.
When I'm dealing with a difficult customer, like as we speak.
Yep.
So are you charging them a premium for them being a pain? Or are they getting the same rate as your other customers? Because that's what we're talking about internally.
Yeah.
Are we going to hire this customer? Because not only are they difficult, they don't pay their bill. They dictate to us when they will pay.
Yeah.
So
yes. So what I do is if you are slow to pay, well, for all my clients, they have to pay a deposit, which equals 1 month up front. And so we're pretty good about that. And when we raise our rates every year, right? Depending on or more often, depending on the cost. And the clients that are difficult have a premium charge, their rates get increased more. I've had some clients that because we've been able to reduce the amount of time, they're really nice, they'll shift to a different service time, that we've kept their rates the same because we could financially. But yeah, Debbie, we have done that. And the reason why we're actually going towards eliminating them because they're never happy, and the money is, the money isn't worth it. They always keep saying, well, we're paying so much money, which they said that before, and we're going to go someplace else and have somebody service you. It's just, we can't do a good job because I can't staff it. I can't. I've had people say, well, quit. I'm going to quit if I have to keep servicing this client.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
can't
think,
afford that.
right, I want to move us back to kind of the retention piece, but I do think this is a big part of it. I do think that there is an opportunity to work with clients that you like and revamp your processes a little bit, to pull some of that stuff out. And I think that transparency and honest conversation with your employees is a really critical part of it as well. Does anybody else who hasn't really shared have something they want to bring in? Like, what are your thoughts about the things that we've already talked about as it relates to you and your companies?
I just think it's really interesting how we're all from different industries, and we're all, you know, it's pretty clear that we're all sort of feeling the same sentiment of that's really what our strategy is this year, and why I've laid so many people off is because we're just in the scramble of just trying to hire enough people to perform the work that we had. And it's, you know, I think someone else said something about it's not sustainable over time to just be throwing money at people to try to get them to come to work and perform the work that they've been hired to do. And it's it ends up getting to the point where you feel like I can't do this anymore. So something has to change.
And I do think there's a culture shift going on right now, right? I just saw an article about, you know, maintenance Mondays or something, how people have decided they really don't want to work that hard on Monday so they can get their week set up. I'm like, well, all right. So I think when we talk about the different things that you can do to try to combat that, right? If we go back a couple slides, there really is some, can I go back a couple slides? You know, there's this piece of it. And I completely agree too, that you cannot just keep throwing money at it because it's not sustainable. And unfortunately, then they just start to expect it. It's not even considered a benefit anymore, right? It's just like, well, why didn't I get that weekend in Santa Barbara? So there's a balance there. And I will say one of the things that I think Cultivate does really well is its transparency. And I struggled with this in my own business. So I say this right, kind of cautiously, but I think it's an area now that I've had some perspective, some hindsight, I think I could have done things, been a little bit more clear about where the company is and trying to help your staff understand a healthy company continues to provide them employment. If it's not a healthy company, then you can't pay salaries, much less bonuses and the other perks that people want. So I think there's that balance. And then there really is some opportunity around systems and the way that people are held accountable to the output, right? That might offer some benefit. Any kind of thoughts around that? I say that recognizing there will be challenges, right? We're talking about getting rid of some of your pickier clients. We're talking about potentially raising prices, changing some of your systems, holding employees who don't want to be held accountable. Or do you just think, wow, this is depressing and I can't wait to get off this call?
I think, wow, this is depressing and I can't wait to sell my business. So I don't have to deal with it anymore. Oh my God, Molly, I tell you, you know, before I couldn't go there, and now I'm like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for me or for them? And a lot of it, you know, it's both now, right? So, you know, Michelle, you're giving a lot of good hints. I think a lot of people probably we've tried a lot of these, you know, and I was gonna say that Monday, whatever they call it, quiet Monday, whatever they do. Yeah. We actually have always done that. You can pick Mondays or Fridays. And Fridays were like social. So if you want to come to the office and they want to, you know, because we don't see each other all the time, that was for the social one. Or you could pick them. I don't want to see everybody on Friday. So I could, you know, have kind of like a low-key Monday. I think to a lot of our points, because I think for us to survive and to be as large as we are and to have been in business as long and frankly to have survived COVID and still be here, we are in the middle of a change, right? Just like the agrarian culture, the industrial revolution, the corporate, and now I don't know what they've named it. We are going through a significant change. And not all industries will survive, right? And not all work styles will survive. And I think it's just, from my perspective, and again, I'm in a different position where I don't, I have options, let's say.
Right.
And when you have options, it's kind of bad because, like Molly says, that hey, I don't need to do this. Now it's in your psyche as opposed to before, it's, I gotta make this work. I don't care what's gonna happen. So
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, some of you talking about selling your businesses or, opportunities that are very specific to you and your company and your industry. And I know this is going to sound like a sales plug, but it's not. You get a free 2-hour advising session. I promise you, you will walk away with that with some clarity, with just some different prioritized items. And I would just really urge you to take that time for yourself and talk to, whether it's me or another advisor. They are truly sessions around advising. It is not a 2-hour sales pitch. It is a session on advising. We want you to experience it. We care. We want to give back to this community. So I'm going to throw that plug in because it's great to bring these issues up. But, Laura's talking a lot about that she's, and I don't want to say lucky enough, she's put herself in this position where she has a little bit more freedom, right? Molly's like, I'm out of here, right? And I know that's not exactly what you meant.
No, I wish I could be like, I'm out of here. I'm not there yet, but I wish.
Yes.
Is what I said.
Exactly. And to some degree, right? What would it take if that really is your plan? How can we get there, right? So, or is there an opportunity to rescale some of my processes, look at my systems, raise my prices, change my clientele, right? There's lots of different options available to each of you in your line of business. And we do sort of feel like we're held hostage a little bit by our employees, right? I think that most everybody on the phone would say yes. And that's going to shift a little bit, right? We're, like I said, we're really in this culture space right now. But I am a firm believer that you can't just keep giving them things because, as I said, it becomes expected. You have to be transparent about what these things cost and how it impacts the bottom line, and don't just give them, like, even just the bringing in snacks, if you bring donuts every morning, or I have a client, she buys coffee for her crew every single morning from the local coffee shop. I'm like, you're spending $25 a day. Let's just talk about how much that is in a year, right? So, and as I said, they no longer see it as a perk, it's an expectation. So, and they don't realize the bottom line, the dollar value. So the way you approach some of these things and the way you offer some of these perks you just have to be really, you don't let them think it's just for free. People don't value it. It becomes an expectation. So that's kind of a caution I would say there. I wanted to look through some of the other slides to see if there was anything else that you guys wanted to talk about specifically. Does anybody have something that's worked really well for them? Let's maybe have a success story here toward the end. Does anybody have a tip or something that's worked well for them recently? I should have had one prepared just in case.
I'll go. I will say, like, on the list of questions that you had, one of the things that we did implement, more so within the last year, was providing an opportunity to give feedback for the employees to be able to give us feedback.
Yep.
So I'm in the financial advising industry, and I have several partners that I work with. And so we have a different partner that handles, the employees specifically, but we created a team so that, because we share all of our employees, and so, which is a challenge, right? So we have 3, but all of the advisors, they work for all of us. And so we have a system in place so everybody's doing things the same way. But, having to go to each person is a challenge. And so we just created a team. And then that's really who they report to and get feedback from and all of that. But for them to be able to have, I think, the ability to tell us like what is or what isn't working for them has been really huge. So one of the things that just came up recently was that they don't like to be called staff. They like to be called something else. So we don't know exactly what that is, but we're like, do not call them staff anymore. I'm like, okay. But I do think that, if you don't have that, or if there's a way, because before, when we did have some issues, I think part of it was because they didn't feel safe enough to provide feedback, and then they leave. At the end of the day, that's what happens. So
Crystal, I think that's a great story, right? Because not everything that they want costs us money or time, right? It's just a change in attitude, and sometimes we're throwing so many things at it, right? But we're still not hitting this relatively simple, and we all chuckled, but it is relatively simple to fix, right? And well, never mind. I was going to get off on another soapbox, but I'm not going to do that. So, because we only have a few minutes left, but I do like that, that ask your employees what is important to them, make them rank them, right? Again, back to involving them in that process. I can't read your mind, and I can't buy you $25 worth of coffee every single day, right? So let's talk about what's important to you. And if you sort of using that example, right? If she went back to her employees and said, that's X, somebody can do the math for me, but that's X amount of money in a year, and I would rather offer that to you as bonuses at the end of the year, right? They would probably be like, oh, hells yeah, that's a much better way to spend that money. So ask your employees. I think that's the perfect way to sort of come to the end of this. And then I know Stephanie wants to ask a couple questions. And one of the first things we want to know is, was this format helpful? Was this discussion helpful? And do you have any feedback for us on what you would like to see in this information going forward?
I thought it was helpful. I think always sharing stories from other, I always love hearing from the other Nabo Circle ladies, what's going on in their business and how they're dealing with these challenges, even if it is a different industry. I think we all come up with creative solutions, sometimes that are out of the box, just because of the nature of having to, just think of things on the fly in order to survive. One thing I think that would be helpful would be to have some maybe statistics like nationwide, like this is what the retention rate may be like, right now as we're seeing it past COVID, or just having some nationwide stats that we can kind of gauge like where our business falls, whether it is on par with that or if we're ahead or behind, I think would be really a great value.
Okay. And understanding that, I mean, we can certainly send out some general, it's going to be industry specific, but maybe we can even find some tools that'll help with that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And there is value to knowing you're not alone, right? I think that being able to sort of recognize that these are challenges that lots of people are facing. Sometimes we beat ourselves up so much as entrepreneurs. And in reality, it's a tough place to be.
Mm-hmm. One of the other goals of this was just kind of shedding light on who in this group of women that maybe you haven't connected with that is a good fit. Liliana is an expert. Deb has obviously mastered this. Like everybody in the group has different strengths in different areas. And so spurring those kind of conversations that you can continue on with each other is really important. And I think something that we wanted to help you uncover from doing this series. And so I'm just so grateful. Michelle, thank you for walking us through this. Ladies, thank you for your chiming in and sharing what's going on. And Laura, for being so kind of open and letting us, sort through that. You were kind of our mini mastermind-ish, I feel like, with the group here. And, it is interesting how this conversation is much different than the one that we had at Leadership Academy, which was kind of around the same topic. So I think it just depends on who shows up and who wants to get involved. But this recording is going to be available for you. We are coming back next time with a new advisor. Michelle, thank you for your guidance on this. This is her strength. We've got Autumn Joyce coming on April 5th, talking about succession, exit planning, business valuation. Molly, we'll see you there.
Molly, I'm joining you.
And I will do the same thing. I will send out some thoughts, maybe some articles. I'm going to get with Autumn to have her kind of figure out some things to jolt you guys thinking in the direction of the way we want to take it. But again, we're going to open it up. I will not talk as much in the beginning so we can just dive in, because I feel like, the most time that we can get together and have you guys speaking, the more important that is. Like Michelle mentioned, this is what we're here for. If you want to take this a step further, if you want to connect with her, just spur some ideas, get some ideas on how to bring that and implement that into your business. That's what we do. And that's how we can help you kind of roll that out. She's always open to just having those one-on-one conversations. I'm happy to help as well, and just point you in the right direction. So please know that we are available. She put her link in the chat, and you can always email me, Stephanie@cultivateadvisors.com. Anyone want to share any takeaways, anything that is like top of mind? I know we are right at the top of the hour, but would love to hear if there's anything that's kind of cemented in your brain that you want to maybe look into or continue on.
And the last thing, I did put my link in the chat, ladies, and we start with just a quick 30-minute conversation. If we don't see the value in moving forward, we won't. But if we do, it's 2 hours of time that we can really devote to you, your business, your goals, your struggles, your challenges, opportunities. So I encourage you to take advantage of that.
I think my takeaway is that having a business in California is hard.
That's where mine was too. So yes, it's not easy. Thank you all so much, ladies. Really appreciated your time and your participation.
Thank you, Michelle.
guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.